And this homily, Saint Theodore says something very interesting. He says about Christ, he says, there were not two things nor two natures, but what was seen was one and the same. So it makes explicit. There are not two things or two natures, but what was seen was one and the same. And the reason why he's talking about that is because he says, look, what was nailed to the cross, St. Theodore's argument, isn't just a human nature. Because if that's the case, then what died for you is simply something created. There is no salvation. It also can't be the divine nature, right? Because then you lead into like an illogical statement. God in his divinity can't die. But there is only one particular concrete thing, and that's the God-man, the theanthropic, the God-man nature. That's what died. So this is what's dogmatized, and Nestorius is condemned for that. If you read what are called the 12 anathemas, these are a list of 12 statements that St. Cyril said condemned. He says that one cannot divide or separate the hypostases. Hypostasis, it means the same thing. It means substance. Hypo means like under, like think of like hypothermic, right? Like your temperature is underneath. Stasis means like stance, substance. Okay, so you can't separate the two substances after the union. God and man, God the Word, and the flesh have now become one composite thing. So this is what St. Cyril makes very clear. And what's even interesting is in the aftermath of this council, so they've dogmatized this idea there were not two natures nor two things. St. Cyril runs into a problem because there are some people that don't like this idea. They don't like this idea of one thing, one nature.
And just for the record, this you're saying this was the view, and then the Eastern Orthodox, and then by proxy the Catholics,
yes,
and then by proxy
the Eastern Orthodox,
the Protestants, right? Am I tracking correctly?
Yes.
Because of this divergence, all get this aspect wrong.
Yes.
Right.
So one of the things that's very so interesting though is a lot of people will hear what I just said and they'll say, well, look, St. Cyril condemned two separate natures. We don't believe in two separate. We believe in two natures, but they're united. So what happens is there is a bishop called Sixcensus who writes a letter to St. Cyril. And he writes a letter, he says, look, we have a group of people in my city, they're called the Cilicians, who said, we don't believe in two separate natures as Nestorius taught, but we believe in two natures subsisting inseparably in a union, but there's still two. Mm-hmm. So he asked St. Cyril, what are your thoughts on this? And everyone can read this. I encourage you guys to read what's called the second letter of St. Cyril to Sixcensus. St. Cyril condemns it. He says, this is yet another attack on the one incarnate nature of the Word. At every turn, they're trying to argue that two things subsist after, but they don't realize that these things are only two, only on the matter of speculation or on theory.